A Tale of Commerce, Culture, and Conflict, the Mendelssohn Family's Early Years, 1809 to 1819. In the early 19th century, Hamburg stood as a bustling hub of trade and shipbuilding, its cobblestone streets alive with the clatter of merchants and the scent of the sea. A free city, part of the ancient Hanseatic League, it enjoyed a degree of autonomy that shielded it from the political storms brewing across Europe. It was here, in 1805, that brothers Joseph and Abraham Mendelssohn founded Gebrüder Mendelssohn and Company, a banking venture that promised to thrive amid the city's vibrant commercial landscape. They moved in the same circles as Salomon Heine, a fellow banker whose wealth would later inspire his nephew Heinrich Heine to quip about the magically powerful metal of silver, too much in the uncle's hands, too little in the nephew's. The Mendelssohn brothers set up their bank on Gross Michaelisstrasse, a bustling thoroughfare, while their winter home, a three-story residence just behind the Grand Michaeliskirche, became a cradle for creativity and ambition. It was within these walls that Abraham and his wife, Lea, welcomed their children into the world, Fanny in 1805, Felix in 1809, and Rebecca in 1811. The house also bore witness to the birth of Ferdinand David in 1810, a child destined to become Felix Mendelssohn's trusted concertmaster in Leipzig's Gewandhaus Orchestra. Meanwhile, the family's summer retreat, a quaint cottage in Neumühlen known as Martin's Mill, offered respite in the Danish enclave of Altona, a tolerant community where merchants peddled duty-free goods and diverse faiths, French Huguenots, Dutch Mennonites, and Jews, found a rare sanctuary. Unlike Hamburg, where Jewish worship remained private due to the absence of synagogues, Altona allowed public observance, a freedom that may have drawn Abraham's mother, Fromet, to spend her final years there, possibly influencing her son's decision to settle in the region. The Mendelssohns' life in Hamburg mirrored, albeit on a smaller scale, the opulence of Salomon Heine, whose grand summer estate in Altona symbolized the prosperity of the era's elite. Yet, beneath the surface of this thriving existence, the winds of change were gathering force. In 1806, Napoleon's creation of the Confederation of the Rhine, a forced alliance of German states, shattered the fragile balance of power. Prussia, initially neutral, watched as French troops marched onto German soil, prompting the lethargic King Frederick William III to mobilize his forces and demand the Confederation's dissolution. The response was swift and devastating. On October 14, 1806, Napoleon outmaneuvered and crushed the Prussian army at Jena, while Marshal Louis Davout annihilated another Prussian force at Auerstadt. Within weeks, the emperor imposed the Continental System, a sweeping blockade aimed at choking off English trade with the continent. English goods and subjects in French territories were declared contraband, transforming Hamburg's once free port into a battleground of economic warfare. For the Mendelssohns, these seismic shifts proved unsustainable. By 1811, the French annexation of Hamburg forced the family to abandon their bank and residence on Gross Michaelisstrasse and retreat to Berlin, leaving behind the city that had cradled their early dreams. The buildings themselves would not survive the passage of time, though their memory lingered in the hearts of those touched by the Mendelssohns' legacy. In 1869, the famed soprano Jenny Lind, known as the Swedish Nightingale, paid homage to Felix Mendelssohn's birthplace by placing a marble plaque above the entrance to number 14 Gross Michaelisstrasse, a gesture of reverence for the composer who had died in 1847. Lind, heartbroken by his passing, had ceased performing his music for years, but her tribute endured until the Nazis removed it in 1936, erasing yet another trace of the family's history. The Mendelssohn story, set against the backdrop of Hamburg's golden age and the tumult of Napoleonic Europe, is a testament to resilience amid upheaval. From the birth of Fanny on the day Napoleon entered Vienna to the family's flight from Hamburg, their early years were marked by both promise and peril. Lea's playful remark that her newborn daughter had Bach fugal fingers hinted at the musical genius that would soon blossom within the family, while the broader historical forces, war, annexation, and economic strife, shaped their path in ways they could scarcely have imagined. As they left Hamburg behind, the Mendelssohns carried with them the seeds of a legacy that would resonate through the centuries, a story of reverence for the child, as Juvenal once wrote, and the enduring power of family in the face of adversity. Shadows of Empire, the Mendelssohns and Hamburg's Fall, 1809 to 1811. In the early 19th century, Hamburg's fortunes, once buoyed by the free flow of trade, crumbled under the weight of Napoleon's ambition. The city, a proud relic of the Hanseatic League, had long thrived on its independence, its docks bustling with ships and its markets brimming with goods from across the globe. But the French emperor's relentless expansion reshaped the landscape, and Hamburg, like so many others, found itself caught in the storm. By 1811, the city's sovereignty had been stripped away, its identity swallowed by a succession of French regimes, each more oppressive than the last. The arrival of Marshal Louis Davout, the fearsome Duke of Auerstadt, marked the culmination of this transformation. Known for his ruthless efficiency, Davout declared that Hamburg's fate was now tethered to Napoleon's own, a proclamation that echoed like a death knell through the city's once vibrant streets. The French occupation brought devastation. Napoleon's continental system, designed to strangle English trade, turned Hamburg's lifeblood, its free commerce, into a liability. Fortunes that had been amassed over generations vanished overnight, as merchants scrambled to navigate the new reality. The French Civil Code was imposed in 1810, forcing Hamburgers to bend to foreign laws, while conscription dragged citizens into the French Navy, tearing families apart. By January 1, 1811, the annexation was complete, and Hamburg became a French territory, its independence a distant memory. The city, once a beacon of prosperity, descended into a shadowy underworld, where smugglers and blockade runners thrived under the corrupt gaze of French officials, trading in defiance of the emperor's decrees. Amid this turmoil, the Mendelssohn family's banking enterprise, Gebrüder Mendelssohn and Company, struggled to survive. The firm, founded by brothers Joseph and Abraham in 1805, had once flourished in Hamburg's golden age, but the French occupation cast a long shadow over its operations. While the exact impact on the bank remained shrouded in mystery, glimpses of its activities emerged from the historical record. Among its clients was Alexander von Humboldt, the renowned geographer whose epic expedition to South and Central America had left him teetering on the brink of bankruptcy. In 1809, under the watchful eye of the French secret police, Humboldt turned to the Mendelssohns for lines of credit to stabilize his finances, a testament to the firm's reach, even in troubled times. The brothers also ventured into the risky business of insuring goods, a precarious endeavor in an era of blockades and smuggling. Meanwhile, the Mendelssohns' Berlin branch flourished, its international clientele spanning cities like Amsterdam, London, Lyon, Paris, Riga, Warsaw, and Vienna. The family's ties to Berlin's elite bolstered their success. Lea Mendelssohn, a member of the prominent Itzig family, maintained an account that generated a substantial yearly income, providing a lifeline as Hamburg faltered. Yet, even as the business adapted, the personal toll of the occupation loomed large. When Felix Mendelssohn was born on February 3, 1809, the worst was yet to come. 25,000 Hamburgers would be expelled before the Russian siege of 1813, but the seeds of unrest were already sown. According to Jules Benedict, the infant Felix displayed an early aversion to the harsh blare of brass instruments and military music, preferring the softer, more refined melodies that would later define his genius. This sensitivity, perhaps, foreshadowed the delicate balance the Mendelssohns would need to strike in navigating the chaos around them. The family's story unfolded against a backdrop of personal milestones and political upheaval. In a letter dated May 2, 1809, Lea wrote to her cousin Henriette von Pereira-Arnstein in Vienna, announcing that her 3-month-old son, Felix, was a nice little lad who promised to outshine his sister Fanny in beauty, a subtle reference to Fanny's slight orthopedic condition, inherited from her grandfather. At 3 1/2, Fanny was already reading clearly and forming sentences with remarkable precision, her intellect shining through even at such a young age. Curiously, Felix's birth went unrecorded in the Jewish community registers of Hamburg and Altona, a silence that hints at the complexities of identity and documentation in a time of flux. As Hamburg transformed into a smuggler's haven and the Mendelssohns grappled with the shifting tides, their story became a microcosm of a city and a family caught between resilience and ruin. The French occupation tested their endurance, but it also set the stage for the remarkable legacy that would emerge from this crucible of conflict. In the shadow of Napoleon's empire, the Mendelssohns forged a path forward, their lives intertwined with the fate of a city that, like them, would rise again from the ashes of adversity. In Mist and Darkness, the Mendelssohns' Flight and Felix's Identity, 1811 to 1822. The year 1811 dawned grimly for Hamburg, a city once proud and free, now shackled under the iron grip of French occupation. Marshal Louis Davout, the fearsome Duke of Auerstadt, arrived in February as the new governor, his presence casting a shadow over the city's dwindling hopes. Amid this turmoil, Lea and Abraham Mendelssohn welcomed their second daughter, Rebecca, into a world teetering on the edge of chaos. But the Mendelssohns' troubles were far from over. By mid-1811, brothers Abraham and Joseph found themselves entangled in a dangerous web, likely caught up in clandestine resistance against the French regime. The exact nature of their transgression remains a mystery, but the consequences were dire. Under the cover of night, shrouded in mist and darkness, they fled Hamburg in disguise, their footsteps echoing through the silent streets as they turned toward Berlin, leaving behind their home and their banking enterprise, Gebrüder Mendelssohn and Company. The escape, which likely occurred near the end of June 1811, marked a turning point for the family. Hamburg, now a French territory, had become a place of peril, its once thriving port reduced to a smuggler's den under Davout's repressive rule. Yet, even as the Mendelssohns sought refuge, their story intersected with the broader currents of history in unexpected ways. Years later, after Napoleon's downfall, their sister Henriette, who served as governess to the Parisian family of General Sebastiani, found herself living near none other than Davout himself. The once ruthless tyrant, who had terrorized Hamburg and brought misery to countless lives, had transformed into a meek figure, henpecked by his domineering wife. Henriette recounted with amusement how Davout, upon hearing her name, inquired whether she had relatives in Hamburg, recalling very worthy people of the same name, a poignant irony, given his role in their flight. Meanwhile, the Mendelssohns' journey to Berlin was not merely a physical relocation but a profound shift in identity, particularly for young Felix, born in 1809. The question of Felix's religious upbringing became a point of contention, reflecting the family's complex relationship with their Jewish heritage. Abraham Mendelssohn, who converted to Christianity in October 1822, made the significant decision to raise his children outside Judaism, a choice that sparked debate among contemporaries and historians alike. Carl Friedrich Zelter, Felix's music teacher, wrote to Goethe in 1821, describing his best student as the son of a Jew, to be sure, but no Jew, noting Abraham's decision to forego circumcision and raise his sons as is proper. Zelter's remark, tinged with prejudice, suggested that Felix's potential as an artist was remarkable precisely because he was not raised as a Jew, a sentiment that underscored the era's biases. Historians like Geoffrey Spazotto have argued that Felix likely never set foot inside a synagogue or received any formal Jewish instruction, a claim supported by a little-known Viennese review of a Berlin concert in December 1822. The anonymous correspondent described the 13-year-old Felix as a boy born and raised in our Lutheran religion, a statement that may have stemmed from misinformation spread by Abraham himself. In truth, Felix was baptized in 1816, years before his father's conversion, marking a deliberate step away from the family's Jewish roots. The absence of Felix's name in the Jewish community registers of Hamburg and Altona further hints at Abraham's intent to distance his children from their heritage, a decision that shaped Felix's identity and legacy in profound ways. As the Mendelssohns rebuilt their lives in Berlin, their story became a tapestry of resilience, adaptation, and transformation. The flight from Hamburg, shrouded in mystery and danger, was a testament to their determination to survive in the face of oppression. Yet, it was also a journey of reinvention, as Abraham navigated the delicate balance between his past and his aspirations for his children. Felix, the boy who would grow into one of the greatest composers of his time, emerged from this crucible, his identity shaped by the choices of his father and the tumultuous era in which he was born. In mist and darkness, the Mendelssohns fled, but in Berlin, they found a new beginning, a legacy that would resonate through the centuries, carried on the wings of music and memory. A new beginning in Berlin, the Mendelssohns amid war and change, 1811 to 1813. As the summer of 1811 drew to a close, the Mendelssohn family's world in Hamburg was unraveling. The French occupation, under the iron fist of Marshal Davout, had turned the once thriving port into a shadow of its former self, and brothers Abraham and Joseph Mendelssohn found themselves on the run, fleeing in disguise under the cover of darkness. Yet, even amid this chaos, Abraham's passion for music endured. Just before their escape, he acquired a treasure trove of J.S. Bach manuscripts at a Hamburg auction, a collection that included the Suite in D major and 10 cantatas. On June 29, 1811, as the Mendelssohns prepared to leave, Abraham sent 43 of these manuscripts to the Berlin Singakademie, a gift acknowledged by Carl Friedrich Zelter, who urged him to save more of Bach's choral masterpieces, lamenting that few in their time could truly appreciate such works. By July 1, 1811, Abraham and Joseph had reached Berlin, their flight from Hamburg complete. The brothers wasted no time dissolving their old banking partnership, Gebruder Mendelssohn and Company, which had operated in both cities. On that day, they signed a contract with their silent partner, Joseph Frankel, agreeing to end the firm by December 31, 1811. A new chapter began on January 8, 1812, when they reorganized their business as J. and A. Mendelssohn, adapting to the changed circumstances of their lives. The agreement stipulated that each partner, Abraham, Joseph, and Frankel, would share equally in the profits and losses, a pragmatic arrangement for a family starting anew. The Mendelssohns' early years in Berlin were marked by uncertainty and adaptation. Their initial residence remains a mystery, but they likely settled first at Markgrafenstrasse No. 48, a property owned by Pastor Stedman, before moving to New Promenade No. 7, a house belonging to Lea's mother, Lea Salomon Bartholdy, by 1812. The transition was challenging, both personally and professionally, but the family's connections proved invaluable. Lea's ties to the French ambassador opened doors, providing a lifeline as the brothers rebuilt their banking enterprise in a city on the brink of transformation. The year 1812 brought both opportunity and hardship. In March, the Prussian administration, desperate to fund Napoleon's ill-fated Russian campaign, imposed heavy levies on businesses, assessing J. and A. Mendelssohn 15,000 thalers. When additional demands followed, the brothers refused to comply, incurring a staggering penalty of 25,000 thalers, a bold stance that reflected their determination to protect their interests. That same month, a glimmer of hope emerged with the Edict of Emancipation, a decree from the Prussian monarch that lifted many restrictions on Jewish subjects, granting them rights as citizens. For the Mendelssohns, who had fled Hamburg's oppression, this was a moment of promise, though their journey toward acceptance remained fraught. On October 30, 1812, Lea gave birth to the couple's second son, Paul, a joyous event overshadowed by the unfolding disaster of Napoleon's Russian campaign. Having failed to secure a truce with Tsar Alexander, the emperor began his retreat from Moscow, a retreat that quickly spiraled into chaos. The Russian winter, combined with relentless attacks from the enemy, decimated the Grande Army, the largest military force ever assembled. By December, when Napoleon limped back to Paris, only about 100,000 men, roughly one-sixth of his original army, followed him, their numbers a haunting testament to the campaign's failure. The Russian debacle ignited a spark of resistance across German territories. In February 1813, Prussian Minister Hardenberg issued a call for volunteers, rallying patriots to liberate their lands from French domination. The once irresolute king, swayed by increasingly belligerent advisers, forged an alliance with the Tsar and declared war on France on March 17. Berlin buzzed with anticipation and anxiety, its citizens bracing for the conflict ahead. J. and A. Mendelssohn played a crucial role in supporting the Prussian war effort, offering in a secret communiqué on April 26 to arrange the delivery of 40,000 Austrian flintlocks, a testament to their resourcefulness and commitment to the cause. As the Mendelssohns navigated these turbulent years, their story became a microcosm of a city and a nation in flux. From the preservation of Bach's manuscripts to the dissolution and rebirth of their banking firm, from the birth of Paul amid Napoleon's downfall to their contributions to the war against France, the family's journey was one of resilience and reinvention. In Berlin, they found not just refuge but a stage on which to build a new legacy, their lives intertwined with the tides of history and the enduring power of music and memory. The year was 1813, and Europe trembled under the weight of war and ambition. In a heartfelt letter dated May 22, Abraham Mendelssohn poured out his anguish to his 19-year-old son, Benjamin, a lieutenant caught in the maelstrom of conflict. For 2 weeks, fear and hope have battled within us in the most dreadful way, he wrote, his words reflecting the torment of a father watching his child march into danger. Benjamin was at Bautzen, where Napoleon Bonaparte, the relentless Corsican, clawed a victory from the jaws of defeat, though the triumph came at a staggering cost to both sides. The young Mendelssohn wasn't alone in his fight. His father had ensured that he and Philipp Veit, the son of literary figure Dorothea Schlegel, were well prepared for the trials ahead. Philipp would later join forces with the poet Joseph von Eichendorff at the Battle of Leipzig, a monumental clash that would change the course of history. Leipzig, known as the Battle of the Nations, was a brutal spectacle of human endurance. In October 1813, Napoleon's 450,000-strong French army collided with a coalition of Austrians, Prussians, Silesians, Bohemians, and Swedes, their banners fluttering over a landscape soon soaked in blood. The battle claimed countless lives, among them Friedrich Wagner, Leipzig's police chief, whose 6-month-old son, Richard, would grow up without a father, his future destined for greatness in the world of music. Amid the chaos, a 19-year-old artist named Wilhelm Hensel fought valiantly, his body bearing the scars of multiple wounds. His bravery earned him a nomination for the Iron Cross, a newly established honor recognizing the courage of ordinary Prussians. Hensel would later marry Fanny Mendelssohn, sister to the young Felix, linking their families in a bond forged by war and art. Back in Berlin, Abraham Mendelssohn threw himself into supporting the war effort. He funded a military hospital and equipped volunteers, his generosity earning him a seat on the city council after the conflict subsided. Meanwhile, one of Benjamin's comrades, a Mecklenburg artist named August Grahl, turned his talents to preserving the faces of the Mendelssohn children. During the family's time in Paris in 1816, Grahl's delicate, oval-shaped miniature portraits were reproduced, offering a glimpse into the lives of Felix and his siblings. 7-year-old Felix, with his tousled ringlets and bright, round eyes, seemed to carry the spark of mischief in his budding grin. His 11-year-old sister, Fanny, presented a stark contrast. Her earrings and neatly gathered chignon framed a face that radiated poise and seriousness beyond her years. By March 31, 1814, the tide had turned. The Allies marched triumphantly into Paris, forcing Napoleon to abdicate and imposing a peace treaty that reshaped the continent. The Bourbon monarchy was restored under Louis XVIII, and Napoleon's once vast empire shrank to the 86 square miles of Elbe, where he ruled as a diminished sovereign. The philosopher Hegel, reflecting on these events, marveled at the tremendous spectacle of a genius undone by his own ambition. That September, the Congress of Vienna convened, a grand assembly where Europe's leaders sought to redraw the political map. Amid the negotiations, they indulged in lavish balls, twirling to the daring new waltz, a dance that scandalized some and enchanted others. Prince de Ligne captured the mood with his witty remark, "The Congress dances and does not march," a nod to the surreal contrast between festivity and diplomacy. Yet, beneath the glittering surface, a storm was brewing. Napoleon, the man who inspired both hatred and fear, was not finished. In March 1815, the exiled emperor returned to Paris, his vanquished army rising like a phoenix from the ashes, shattering the Allies' hard-won triumph. The Prussian minister issued an urgent call for volunteers, and Benjamin Mendelssohn, ever steadfast, answered once more, ready to face the resurgent threat and defend his homeland against the shadow of Napoleon's ambition.